Next session is cross borders. Now I would like to invite founder and CEO of Torus, Kirill Lisitsyn, and board member of TÖDEP, Serhat Şener.
Today, we're gonna talk with Kirill, my friend, about cross-border challenges in e-commerce payments, and we're gonna talk about the value of data in cross-border payment services, and then we'll talk about how can foreign entities in Turkey can enter the Turkish market. And what is the potential of Türkiye from the perspective of cross-border transactions? So these topics we're going to delve into today. Thank you for joining. My name is Serhat. I'm a board member in Turkish Payment and E-Money Institutions Association. Also a board member in Standard Payment Services, which is a international money transfer company in Turkey. And I have Kirill with me today. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm Kirill. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Torus. We are the SaaS intelligence platform for banks and fintechs, helping them to improve their profits on the card payments they have. We do it by helping them to better analyze the fees they pay to payment schemes like Visa, MasterCard, optimizing them, and also calculating their unit level profitability and balancing the product pricing.
Can I start with the first question?
Yeah, so we saw recently...
Okay. Maybe I should start with the first question?
Yeah, you can do that, yeah.
Biraz az.
Yeah, the sound. Hey, mute mi edelim?
Should we...
Okay. So please go ahead.
So you want to start with the potential?
No, I mean we can start with actually the. I want to learn about the card part. What are the key challenges?
Yeah,
in
right.
e-commerce card payments?
Yeah, so
nowadays.
Yeah, okay. So as we're talking here about cross-border, so cross-border is a very interesting piece of like cashless payments internationally, and so on the one hand it's booming. On the other hand, the profitability of those payments is still not that super transparent to the players, because the data exchange, especially if we talk about card payments like payouts or cross-border e-commerce, the cost of those transactions is typically quite high. On the other hand, so and additionally to that, the structure of the data that comes along with those transactions is quite complicated, and there's a lot of legacy within the data exchange as well. And the players, so if we talk about e-commerce acquirers, for example, the players typically face some challenges in really calculate the unit level profitability and optimize that and like properly price their products and price the offerings, especially if it comes around the cross-border, because cross-border for the providers like the card schemes like Visa, MasterCard, others, cross-border is one of the kind of most revenue generation piece. Plus we have the question of different currencies, so FX also adds some values on top. And we see that there are a lot of cases when by default, for example, e-commerce acquirer would assume that, okay, that's the average cost of my transaction for the portfolio, or even for international transactions, that's the average cost, and I will apply it for every single transaction that I have internationally. And as a result, the fluctuation might be significant. So they might be like times higher than the average one. But if they would like to calculate the true costs, with the current setup of the card scheme fees, really requires them to do it from scratch on their own. And we know that some like largest players, they have the resources and time to build that internally, but a lot of mid-market players, they just keep on using the averages, and they might get issues in the end with their profitability when they try to calculate the reality. So that's why in cross-border, both opportunities and well as the risks to not to kind of lose money, because sometimes we see that there might be transactional losses, and the data aggregation is at that level that currently acquirers just really might not know about these issues. So that's why we truly believe that data analysis is the key to be profitable and competitive at the same time. And yeah, we also saw that like Turkey recently is becoming more popular in terms of like cross-border payments specifically. So it would be great to hear your view on that. And is it easy to get into for international companies?
I mean, foreign entities, there are many foreign entities at the moment who receive their licenses from the relevant regulators, like Western Union, MoneyGram, and other large foreign entities. And some of them entered the market by acquiring other Turkish entities, and some of them applied by themselves. But this is not the only way. So there are two ways actually. The first way is to apply for a license through the Central Bank of Turkey. And the second way is to work with a Turkish entity based in Turkey, of course, and has a remittance or cross-border license in Turkey. So in the first part, to acquire a license, there are three phases. The first way is to pass the establishment phase. In that phase, you establish a new co, and with this new co, you apply to the central bank, and the central bank does the evaluation, and if it approves, you go to the intelligence phase. That's the second phase. On the intelligence phase, mainly the focus is on the shareholders. So the shareholders of the foreign entity has to provide a lot of documentation regarding shareholders' activities in their home country or outside of Turkey, whatever activities they are doing in other countries. And you should provide a business plan also. And in this business plan, you have to show that what you're going to contribute to the Turkish payment economy in Turkey, what kind of business models you're going to use, how will you handle your internal control systems, and so on and so forth. And at the final phase, after you get the approval from the second phase, at the final phase, you have to be audited by a IT audit company. But this is not only an IT audit, by the way. There are two major reports here, two audit reports. The first one is related to your organizational structure, your capital adequacy, according to the relevant regulations. You have to be audited regarding your risk management system, internal controls, IT, which is another communique, by the way, under the 6493 law. And there are many heavy security requirements, especially IT continuity requirements, IT risks, and other stuff. After the audit, IT audit, the report is submitted to the central bank, and central bank does the final evaluation and gives you the license, or they may ask, of course, other kind of questions, or they might require other documentation from you. So this is the licensing part, applying for a license. The second one is much easier. In the second one, you have to collaborate with Turkish entities who got, of course, license, a payment license or e-money license in Turkey. And they have to apply to central bank regarding the collaboration. So they have to provide what kind of collaboration they're going to do with the Turkish entity in Turkey. What are going to be the responsibilities of each party, how they're going to handle the transactions. And in this area, of course, AML, anti-money laundering, counterterrorism financing activities are critical responsibility. And onboarding customers, for example, is another critical part. And the foreign entity should provide documentation, their draft agreement with the Turkish entity, and provide documentation in other parts, which, for example, the foreign-based entity should have a license in his own or her own country. It should be a licensed institution in that country. It shouldn't have received any punitive damages in terms of AML and CTF. This is crucial. And it should have the required organizational structure and IT infrastructure to integrate and to handle the transactions on their part. Of course, the most crucial part here is the entity should should have the experience also. The organization should have that experience that they have dealt with the cross-border transactions before. That's another important factor. And afterwards, the central bank, the regulators, review the collaboration application and give you the permission to work with that Turkish entity. So far, only 3 companies received this collaboration licensing application, let's say. It just started in December, I believe, or November 2023. So this is very new. Sorry?
So it's quite fast to get to obtain the license, relatively. So it's not taking years like it happens in other regions.
Actually, collaborating with a Turkish payment institution or e-money institution in Türkiye, it's much easier to get, of course. But as I told you, the company, the foreign-based entity, should comply with some of the requirements, like punitive damages. They shouldn't have received any punitive damages in AML or CTF area, for example. And they have a positive financial outlook in their independent audit report, for example. But it's much easier to enter into the Turkish cross-border market of Türkiye.
It's very interesting, yeah. So the question was there. So you recently started that, and so you see the demand, right, in the terms, and also because there is some untapped potential of cross-border payments in Turkey specifically.
Yeah, that's correct. Of course, the Turkish economy is one of the largest and the strongest economies, stable economy in the region. Compared to other regional players, of course, and it's in the, I mean, it's about the geostrategic position of Turkey in this region. It connects Europe and Asia, but I mean, it's much more than that. I mean, when you say Asia and Europe, it doesn't tell you the details. I mean, I can connect to Eastern Europe quickly, Central Asia, and there are many Turkic countries, for example, there's like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, other countries. Eastern Europe right now there's a conflict, but before the conflict, the Russia and Ukrainian transactions were very high, and also we can connect directly to Middle East, and we have very good trade relations in the Middle East with Qatar, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates. And also we are close to Africa, especially North Africa and West Africa, actually. And the interesting part about Africa is the number of African students are increasing. The number of African businessmen coming to Turkey are increasing for trade purposes. For example, in West Africa, after Chinese product, Turkish products came to the second place, for example. So many African businessmen are interested, and many African students are coming to Turkey to learn about business management in Turkey. So geographically, Turkey has a very good advantage in this area. Also, let's not forget about the Balkans. Balkans area, in that area also we have good large transactions. Of course, Turkey's main remittance transactions, cross-border transactions, are with Europe and Central Asia at the moment. Africa is one of the fastest growing parts, and Turkish companies also are investing heavily in the region, in Africa, in Eastern Europe, and especially Central Asia. So there is a huge potential. And the other thing is Turkish economy is very diversified. So when the economy is very diversified, evenly distributed, I mean manufacturing, service, banking and finance, they are evenly distributed when you look at the GDP. So this brings lots of opportunities. I mean, you can do any kind of business in Turkey because of that. So, there is a huge potential because Turkey in this region is one of the fastest growing economies in the past, averagely in the past 20 years. So I believe it's gonna, the cross-border transactions is gonna increase much more in the future. But I'm going to ask you a question about your answer before. Can you explain me what is the value of data in e-commerce card payment transactions, and how can I improve my profitability with the usage of data?
Yeah, of course, yeah, with pleasure, because we see that there's a lot of fancy trends these days. So let's get more and more data. Let's build a huge data lake. Let's put AI on top. But then still there is very often one piece missing is what to do with that data. So there's still usually a human being needs to decide, even if it's AI-based analysis or something, that should be some application of the data. And what we see, especially in our specific niche where we are, that we're trying to be a bit controversial, saying that you guys already sitting on the large piece of data that you're not analyzing to the most. You're not extracting the 100% of the value from those data pieces. And we talk about transactions that any kind of a member of the international payment schemes is getting. And typically, yes, there's a lot of legacy, so it's typically file-based exchange, and then so it's not overlooked that deeply because there are things that you need to either redo on your own or build something close to that. But if you know how to deal with the data, it really can help you to better understand your profitability and manage that. So it's because we truly believe that transactional business, payment business should be a data-driven one. And from the outside, sometimes the perception that so it's everything is digital, everything is fully transparent. From the inside, unfortunately, there's a lot of things that are not that transparent. I remember my elder days when I was working for one large system integrator, and so even calculating a customer level P&L was a huge problem back then. It was 10 years ago. It's still a huge problem and many times. And then if you do not know the P&L of your units or the customer or your product, then it's hard to make data-driven decisions, and AI won't help you here. So that's why our idea that, and what we have built here in Toros, that we just take this same data that you already exchanging with the schemes, and we help you to extract the value from that. So showing you what exactly the fees that you pay to them and how they can be optimized. Or we predict the fees at transactional level, and then we would tell you and help you to calculate the really P&L of a single transaction. So we do it bottom up. We do it both top down from the cost side, but also bottom up from the transactional level. And then you can even verify, so reconcile the total costs, but also even more importantly, that knowing the P&L of a single transaction, you can aggregate it using almost each type of, or each parameter within the transaction. So customer type, transaction type, geography, especially in the countries like Turkey where there's no cap on the interchange and still rewards programs are funded from the interchange. So if you buy something even from the external merchant, so you still get your the proper interchange in your card, but you as an issuer, you should be super clear on what's the margin in that specific merchant category. So is there enough profitability left to pay that cashback or to pay those loyalty points? And this is, it may sound obvious, but actually that's pretty difficult question in many cases on the product management level. And so that's why we believe and we see that, yeah, better analyzing this data improves profitability quite fast. So, and then you don't need to build something very like sophisticated or get extra 10 sources of data from the social media, from whatever. So these are solving different stories, but here you already have the data, you just need to know how to deal with that. So, yeah.
I have a question. Do you work with any Turkish entities as Taurus at the moment? Do you work with any Turkish entities as Taurus in Turkey?
We recently started the discussions with the players in this market. So right now we're going through contracting phase with one of the players. But we saw already the data extracts. And the good thing about our design is that the system was designed to analyze the original data files from Visa, MasterCard, and as global providers, they use the same formats globally. It creates the same issues, which is kind of bad for the market, but good for us. But it helps us to be scalable geographically, so it literally takes us a few weeks to set up a new market.
I can help you introduce some companies if you want. Okay, thank you. Do you have any other questions?
What do we plan to so far? Yeah?
Thank you for joining, and hope you have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you so much.